Good evening, everybody. I hope you guys are having a wonderful evening. Um, we actually have a really awesome show for you guys tonight. So I hope that you guys stay tuned, stay engaged, and stay with us throughout the entire show. We'll get started in a little bit here. We're just kind of sharing it onto our personal. So if you are live with us, please help us share and then let us know where you're watching us from so we can say hi. Oops. And then we'll get started here in a sec. The Facebook has been so busy today. I'm telling you, just like a lot of exchanging of opinions. So I've been like so distracted. I couldn't really do my job today. It's just like so many things to read and like drama to catch up on. I'm just like, oh my gosh, what are we coming to?
I know I saw something that Johnny posted about is our Hmong community imploding, but I think it's good. I think it's a good conversation, even though I think that there's a lot of like different opinions about. I think it's bringing to light some things about just again like boundaries and like what I saw your post about and I think just like I think sometimes because there's not a lot of money necessarily in it, but I think just recognizing that when you have different people to help you as part of that process of being like whether you're a performer or whatever, I think it's good to have people who can handle that because there's just so much going on and
yeah, I know. I'm just like reading the comments and just so many people with different opinions of what, but again, I think it, like you said, I think it's a good conversation. I think we need to make sure that we keep it good and healthy instead of like bullying each other or calling each other names. I think it's a really good conversation to have around like, what are some of the things that we need to put in place to kind of help our artists, but also help other businesses thrive as well. And so I think it's a good conversation to have.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that there are a lot of people exchanging conversations. I just hope that we can keep it, at a level where we're not bullying each other and things like that on social media. So,
yeah. Hi, Chai.
Yes. Hey, Chai.
Hi, Chang. Yes, there's been a lot of tea lately. Yes, there's a lot of tea.
So much tea.
Like, even outside of the Hmong tea group, there's tea.
Oh my goodness. I just want to go on to read everyone's comments on what they're saying. And, there are some where I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I didn't see it from that perspective. And then there are some where I'm just like, this is ridiculous. But, again, we're all voicing our opinions. Let's just be respectful of each other and not call names and, things of that nature. So.
Yeah, I think there's so many people involved in it. And, I mean, I think it's good for the people to hash it out. And then I think that, the people who are actual parties in it, like, I do respect some of the people that aren't necessarily like, I guess like getting involved in that conversation too. I think it's, as an organization, like I feel like it's good for, like to take those things, but not necessarily be part of some of those conversations because everybody's so like heated right now,
I think it's a good lessons learned for our community, honestly. And I think for all the people involved too. I think it's a really good lessons learned, right? Like when to put things on social media, when not to, and when to actually reach out and communicate and things like that. So there's just lots of lessons learned. I feel we can all learn from this and grow and make things better for our community. So like you said, I'm glad people are hashing it out. It needs to happen in order for us to like move past and move on. So yeah, continue the conversation off the post that Callie and I posted earlier today, or on some of the other platforms that they've created on social media here on Facebook, some of the pages. But yeah, I think that the more we talk about it, the faster we get it out of our system and kind of out of the light of what it is. So,
and I think even the fact that like we're able to have that conversation, right, of like money and being able to like pay people to come on things or like to perform and things like that. I think that's definitely a good like a good success point for us. And I think it just would be great to like see how the structure of different organizations or different personalities and performers, how that how that plays out. Michael says, just leave your laundry off social if you don't want to get dragged through the mud, which is true.
Sometimes that is very true. Yeah.
Okay, but tonight is not about Hmong tea. So we do, as much as we love what the community is, that there is, again, I think conflict is good. And there's a lot of people doing a lot of cool things. And so tonight's show is about somebody who is part of that storytelling, part of that, bringing light to things. It's, one of our very own, creators here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And along with what Callie's saying, we will then kind of jump into our show. It was a nice, good 5 minutes chatting about the tea that's been happening in our community. And who knows, maybe if there's just so much that happens, maybe Callie and I will come on and talk about it too. But I don't think it's really necessary. Our 5 minutes comment here, I think, is plenty. And there are other people who are already on kind of talking about that. So we'll leave that up to them. But for tonight's show, it is sponsored by Wokman, a nonprofit out of Wisconsin that started a statewide initiative to address mental health for the underserved communities, and they implemented Project Resiliency. Kelly and I just released a video yesterday. I feel like the days are gone by so fast. We just released a video yesterday. And it is in Hmong, so we hope that you guys help share that video out to your network, and so that it could reach far and wide. We want to make sure that this message is spreading. But they now have a warm line, and it is available Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Central Time. And you guys can reach that number at 1-800-293-7080. Again, please help share the video that we posted yesterday. It's really, really important that we help spread the word. I know that the Project Resiliency, they've put in a lot of effort to, make this happen for our community. And so again, you never know when you'll need it. You'll never know when other people will need it. So I think just sharing and really making sure that we, expand our reach is going to be really important for them. So you guys can help us do that, that would be greatly appreciated. All right, Callie, anything else?
Nope.
All right, then let's have you introduce our guests and then get this show started.
All right, so tonight we have Jeremy Thao on with us, and he is a Hmong American screenwriter and director from Atlanta, Georgia. His primary objective as a filmmaker is to create space and opportunities for underrepresented people to explore the world of filmmaking and help bring their stories to the silver screen. Jeremy's filmmaking highlights voices and narratives that have been traditionally overlooked and hopes to encourage others to share their stories as well. His upcoming short film, Wokman, won the Spring 2021 Film Impact Georgia Filmmaking Grant, which Jeremy's BIPOC and women-led team of indie filmmakers are currently in post-production and are hoping for a successful film festival circuit in 2023 and 2024. And so with that, we will bring him on.
Hi, Jeremy.
Hey, Callie and Olivia.
Hello.
I'm doing good. How are y'all doing?
Good.
We're trying to stay warm. It's been so cold out here in the Pacific Northwest lately. So just keeping warm.
It's a rainy day here.
I'm sorry, what's that?
I said it's a cold and rainy day here too.
Feels like Portland then.
Yeah.
That's how it feels like in the Northwest here. Okay, so Jeremy, let's just kind of jump right in. Could you tell us a little bit more about your background and how you became interested in screenwriting and directing?
Yes. So yeah, I'm a 34-year-old freelance filmmaker here in Atlanta, Georgia. I concentrate in screenwriting and directing, but I've also dabbled in other departments like lighting and assistant directing and things like that. And so I have been a freelance filmmaker in Atlanta since October of 2017. Um, and I graduated from film school at the University of North Georgia in December of 2017. So um, for a little bit over 5 years now, I've been doing this professionally, and I am currently in the transition to just primarily focusing on screenwriting and directing. Um, and so, to be honest, it's an industry and a profession that it's not been a lifelong passion or anything like that. To be honest, now that I have found a little bit of success in my career, it's easier for me to share that I was actually a business student when I started college as an 18-year-old, and I actually failed out of college 3 times before I turned 20. And when I failed out that third time, I was on academic suspension for 2 years. And so I spent essentially 20 to 25 in Athens, Georgia, just kind of goofing off and working weird jobs and um, just, you know, just kind of living aimlessly. And when I turned 25, I decided I personally wanted to go back to college. And when I turned 27, I got my associate's degree and I had to decide what to major in. And I decided I was not going to try business again. And so I figured I might as well pick something I thought would be fun. And this was about 2015. This was about when the film industry really started to take off in Atlanta. And so the University of North Georgia started up a brand new film production bachelor's program, which I just kind of blindly joined, I'll be honest. And fast forward a couple years, and I get my bachelor's degree in film production, and I just make the scary decision to start freelancing. And so, with the pandemic thrown right in the middle, it's been a very hectic and fun and crazy start to my career here over the past 5 years. But yeah, I'm enjoying it.
So how was it going back to you talking about how you were originally in school for business? What I'm just curious, what degree were you going for in business school?
So I was a business administration major. It was kind of a situation where my parents and I didn't want me to be like an undecided freshman, and so it was kind of the conversation with dad with like business is applicable anywhere you go, and so we just kind of picked business, and that followed several years of very tumultuous and expensive time wasted for pretty much everybody involved. And but you know I think I needed to get a lot out of my system, and in my early 20s. And I think when I went back to college and I felt like I was in a little bit more control, I I flourished. I went from straight F's to straight A's in film school, and it was because I was having fun and I was enjoying what I was doing. And I'm very proudly the first person in my family to get a bachelor's degree, and so I'm also the oldest child in my family, and so um, I know that meant a lot to my mom, and so, but yeah, and so it just kind of fell into place like that, and I've been very lucky to kind of fall into it the way I have.
Yeah. I know when we had talked to you, you had, spoken about how COVID, in some ways, I think some profession has not helped, but for your particular case, that's a little bit different. And so, how exactly did COVID help you with your career?
So at first, it hurt us just like it hurt everybody else. We lost all of our work, and we were film production was very much up in the air. Um, and so when that started in spring of 2020, I essentially quit filmmaking and I went back to my day job. I was doing data entry for the financial services industry. And so in August of 2020, like this is before vaccines and stuff, Netflix, they were starting up production, but they were, if y'all remember, they're calling them bubbles. Like the NBA did it, and so like we lived in a hotel. I lived inside of a hotel for 4 months in South Atlanta, and you could only leave the hotel to go to the movie studio. But the thing was, like, the pay was just like so astronomical to entice you to go live in the hotel. But anyway, um, before vaccine, there were a lot of people who were understandably afraid of going back to work, and so essentially, there are a lot of opportunities that came onto a lot of younger filmmakers who are trying to make it in, who are willing to go. I mean, I was definitely willing to go do this, but anyway, so I live in this hotel for 4 months on a movie called Red Notice on Netflix. It stars The Rock and Gal Gadot and Ryan Reynolds, and so we had a lot of fun filming that here in Atlanta. And I worked on that movie for 3 or 4 months, living in a hotel, which was just the most insane thing I've ever experienced, and made a lot of friends there. And I mean, with the caliber of those three actors, you can imagine kind of the caliber of the crew that they would bring along with it. And so I got to meet a lot of really talented people who helped after the movie was done. The connections I made on that movie helped get me a job on. It's a show that was recently canceled, but it's called Legacies on the CW. It's like a spinoff show of Vampire Diaries, and I spent a year being a coordinator on that show. Once again, just from connections I made from the first movie, and so it's just been a continuous parlay of meeting more and more people with each job you go to. And so I mean, because of that, I COVID really did help me and several of my colleagues kind of really get our careers going. So
So for those shows, like what exactly did you do on,
Mhm.
for work there?
so for the Red Notice movie, so a lot of film studios during COVID essentially created a new film department, the COVID department. And that department, there's a very I'm not sure about how it is now, but I know it's still pretty regular. But especially during the first part of COVID, we were getting COVID tests like 3 to 4 times a week. And so the COVID department were scheduling and administering tests, but also they had people who were like sanitizing high touch points and encouraging the proper usage of PPE and what have you. And so I was on that team, uh, the COVID team on Red Notice, and that kind of got me in the door. And it's not the most fun job in the world telling a bunch of grown people to 6 feet apart. It's like it's pretty cringy and, and difficult, but you do what you got to do. And so after that, I was a department coordinator on the TV show Legacies. And so I was essentially the TV show is like a monster of the week kind of show, and my department, we were the special effects makeup department. We made the monsters. I was the only non-creative on the team. I was kind of their liaison with the rest of the production, the other departments. And so that was a pretty big jump up from what I had been doing previously. And so uh, nearing the end of my tenure on Legacies is when I won the grant um, that kind of started the Walkman timeline. And so it's just kind of been one thing after another ever since pandemic started. And so it's been it's been fast and it's been very crazy, but yeah, we've been having fun with it. Um, yeah.
Yeah. I love that you use the opportunity to network. That's amazing. You're right. Those three actors for Red Notice, those are really big names. And so obviously come with big names, they bring around really important people as well. And so I love that you use that opportunity to network for your next opportunity, which is really good. And speaking of Wokman, Callie kind of already mentioned it at the very beginning when she was kind of doing your intro, but in 2021, you created that film and it won the spring 2021 Film Impact Georgia Filmmaking Grant, which you just kind of mentioned. But could you tell us a little bit more about this film?
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to. So, Walkman is a short film that we are currently editing. We filmed it over 3 days in October, and we had been in pre-production for the movie since we won the grant, which was May of 2021. And so, um, when the pandemic kind of wiped our calendars clean of all of our jobs and we had nothing to do, I used the time to finally write for the first time since college. And so, it's like I had always been hesitant about I never really knew what kind of Asian story could be a good first story for me to write. I mean, I just had a blank, right? And then so during pandemic, we had the rise in the Asian racism, right? And then that included like the uptick in violence and all of these things. And so, you know, I finally I decided I was going to try to write about what it was like to grow up as an Asian American kid in the 90s. And like I was trying to piece together like all of these things that like were so important to me about being Asian. And like another major thing is food, right? Like it is such a love language, not only in the Hmong culture, but like in a lot of Asian cultures. It really is. And like and sometimes in lieu of sorry or in lieu of I love you, it's the offering of a meal or an offering of some fruit. And we can kind of joke about it a little bit, but it's kind of true. It really is kind of true. And in addition to food being a love language for so many immigrant and refugee families, the making of food and serving of said food is a major way and sometimes the only way to earn a living, especially if you are illegal or if you don't speak English very well. It is like literally the only thing you can do sometimes to make a buck is to make or deliver food. And so it's kind of like I wanted to do all these things. I wanted to highlight immigrants and refugees, and I wanted to highlight, and you know how like service workers have been treated so poorly, like during COVID, like food workers and just all service workers. And it's just like, how can I highlight my Asianness, but highlight all these social things that are going on? And so you start thinking about the idea of a Chinese restaurant, an American Chinese restaurant, and like it doesn't matter your skin color, it doesn't matter how much money you make or what city you're in. There is a Chinese restaurant near you that you love and you adore. And so I wanted to make a movie in a world that invited everybody. Because if you think about it, oftentimes when racism is in the conversation, it's reactionary. Something bad has already happened, and like we're all upset, and now we got to talk about it, and it can be a little destructive, and a little, it's not always the best. It doesn't always end the best ways when we're having conversations in those heated state of minds. And so it was like a challenge to myself of during the pandemic of like, how can I make a movie to trick the viewer? Like when you're watching this movie, you are actively engaging in a conversation with me personally about race, and I am merely hiding that behind the facade of a Chinese restaurant. And so I also wanted to honor like the kids that work in the restaurants. Like uh, I'm sure I'm sure y'all as well like have seen restaurant kids grow up in front of you like over the years. And I was a latchkey kid. I'm sure y'all were at some point. Like you walk home, you're just home alone or what have you. And so like I think it's time, and it's never been more perfect or appropriate for people who have been ignored by Hollywood. Like the success of these stories like Minari and Parasite and all of these like these movies, like I want to make sure it's not a flash in the pan. I want to make sure that we are establishing the fact that stories from voices like ours are worthy of being told. But you got to start it ties into what y'all have been talking about. That requires money. Like it's the Walkman budget. I'll be honest with y'all. It's like $28,000. It's taken a lot of money to make this, but we have continuously done what we've needed to do via a crowdfunding campaign and all of these things to continue to parlay what we have to get more and more and more. And so, yeah, it we need investments financially and otherwise, um, to help encourage, because I'm sure you would agree with me. Like there was a point where we just needed Hmong kids to graduate high school. Now that's kind of like that's if everything goes right, that's going to happen. We can start thinking of my niece who's 4 years old started taking gymnastic lessons when she was like 3, stuff like that. And it's like our kids are starting to do kid things, and like it seems like there's a lot less pressure on the young ones to and so we need encouragement and nurturing, like when it comes to the arts, like in terms of making life legitimately making your livelihood from the arts. It takes support, and it takes many, many, many things. And considering the fact that extracurricular things in our community were like very difficult for a long time. With my parents worked, both my parents worked, and it wasn't until we were older that it was financially and logistically possible for us to like have multiple kids playing soccer, and have multiple kids doing extracurriculars. And so, it's really exciting to see this wave of Hmong creatives from from the culinary arts to singing to filmmaking to whatever to digital content creation. It's really cool to see how much talent our community has, and like the vastness in which we are sharing our talents in terms of the different types of mediums of art. And so um, it's an exciting time to be to be among creative for sure.
So, like, speaking of just like money, and I believe that your film was like the pitch video, was that what was given to apply for the grant itself? Is that correct?
So the teaser and the video in which I was talking, we made that with some of the grant money. Um, that video was pretty much our anchor for our crowdfunding campaign, which um, we ran in the middle of May through the middle of June. And we had a very ambitious $20,000 goal for our crowdfunding campaign, and we were very, very blessed to get about 23,000. So with the 5,000 from the grant, we've been very, very, very lucky to have the opportunities that we've had, and so it's been a very great learning experience. Um, and it also teaches a very specific type of responsibility that comes along with a dollar amount that high. I've never done anything like this before, admittedly, and I've never hidden that fact from anybody. And so to build a team, like, because what here's the thing, we have an LLC for the movie, like we have an official business, so we have accountants, and like I don't even touch the money, like my producers handle all of that, and it's like you learn how to become, if you really want this to work, I want to write and direct feature Hollywood films. That is like my dream goal. In order to do that, like I've got to learn how to manage this stuff on this tiny level to prove that maybe hopefully one day I can do it on a larger one. And so it's been a lot of fun, kind of, for a lack of a better word, mimicking the Hollywood system, but it's like you put these things in place, these people in place, to where you know, it's checks and balances. And so yeah, it takes a very large group of dedicated people who, no one's getting paid their full day rate here. They're a part of it because they want to help bring this Asian American story to life. And so um, I'm very lucky. I feel very blessed.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really brilliant what you did with, like, um uh doing like a little bit of a teaser and not necessarily the whole film, right? So then you took that and then you like parlay that into like a crowd, a crowdfunding project to like make it even bigger. So do a lot of people do that, or was that like what kind of motivated you to take that route versus just saying, I'm going to make this so that I can get the money, and then that kind of ends there?
Yeah, I have I have been a part of two other teams. We were It's essentially a game of copycatting, right? It's like, but the months leading up to the launch of the campaign, I looked up the campaigns that I was a part of, like where the money was not my responsibility, but I was still a part of the team, like making the movie. You really use those opportunities to watch what other people are doing so that you can copycat what you like. But more importantly, you can stay away from what you know did not work or will not work for you in your situation. And so the format and like the equation that we followed was not an original one, I guarantee you. It was very carefully put together just from extracting things that we saw that we liked, that we saw that worked for other people. And so after three other Atlanta short films did this exact same thing, you just got to believe in yourself enough that the crowdfunding campaign is going to hit. And so, yeah, the thing is, there's sometimes it doesn't hit, and I've also seen that happen here in town. And so we really banked on the fact that this was a very Asian American story. It's not often that you see very blatant Asian American short films being made, even though there are more. It seems like I'm starting to see more and more, but like, that piques the interest of obviously like of hopefully everybody and most people of color, but it's like the Asian people obviously, and so yeah, I don't know if that's pretty much. I hope that answered your question, Kelly.
Yeah, like in the pitch video, the one with you talking at the end, it was kind of interesting because of so in that video, like the little boy is kind of like playing his game, and the phone rings, and then he goes and I think he was on that scoop up the soup, and then the dad's like sitting in the kitchen, kind of just waiting. I think it was reading and eating, and so it was kind of, I mean, it was like visually, it was like really, I mean, done really well. Yeah, like absolutely. And then it was just kind of like I was kind of like getting into it, and then it's like, bam, you talking. So I think it was a really great just pitch video, just like kind of getting me curious of like, wait, what's gonna happen? And like, oh, like the food, like what is this old stuff that he's scooping? So I'm really intrigued to kind of see the whole thing.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. Like I said, like I really think that the making of food and the serving of food, it really speaks to us individually in so many different ways. And so, it really excites me when people tell me that they like what they see and that they can't wait to see more. And if all goes well, Kelly and Olivia, like the movie is going to be playing in film festivals like around the country and stuff. And so more than likely and hopefully they will be in film festivals like around you guys. And so like if they do, I would love to invite y'all to come watch it with me like in person when I'm near your hometowns and stuff. So that would be really fun. But yeah, we are hoping to finish the movie by the end of January, and we'll go from there.
I think that that's a good segue into kind of like you may have already answered it on like the what's next for the project. So you said that you guys are currently editing right now, and then once it's done, like what are next steps after that to kind of get it into theaters and stuff?
So the short film, which is traditionally anything that's like 40 minutes and under, the short film is like a very important medium for unknown filmmakers to kind of showcase what they can do with smaller budgets and smaller crews and things like that. And so this 16-minute movie, I hope, like how Kelly, you're saying, like right when you were really getting into it, it was like boom, it's over, and then you saw my face. It's kind of the same effect that I'm going for with this short film. When the movie is over, I am hoping that everyone who watched it is like, no, I want much more of that. And we are hoping that it's called a proof of concept, this short film. It is essentially letting people know that, like, hey, I have an idea for an hour and a half or a 2 hour version of this. I just need your help and your money to do it. And so we are hoping to get this short film into as many film festivals around the world as possible so that the right producer and the right theater sees it and is like, let's give this guy like, you know, $4 million, which is like relatively low when in the whole scheme of Hollywood filmmaking. But it's like I'm an unknown Hmong kid, like hopefully it's like let's give this kid like $3 million and let's just see what happens. That's like kind of the fantastical goal that I am. Is not that fantastical though anymore. Realistically, it's like that could maybe happen over the next year, and so that is what we are chasing currently, is to get the recognition and the funding for a longer version, which would then hopefully be on Netflix or in theaters or something like that.
Yeah, that's really cool. And so I guess what you're saying is that you put it in across the US and different film festivals, and then in the hopes that like I'm assuming there's a lot of directors and people that come and watch and scout for these kind of things, or how does that process work?
Yeah, I guess, like, the way I've always looked at it is it's similar to athletics in the way of, like, you're looking for the next generation of, like, of young people who are, moldable, who show some talent, and you wanna find them before someone else does, and so that is very much a thing, and film festivals are kind of where that can happen and does happen. Uh, Many filmmaking careers have started from short films making it into film festivals, and so that is kind of the route that we are trying to explore on this one as well.
Got it. And then I'm going to take it back a little bit. And so, for the title of this episode was screenwriting and directing. Is that one and the same? Is it usually separate? Like, why is it that for you in particular, it's screenwriting and directing, which I would think is like two different types of positions?
Yes, they are very much two different types of positions. Um, I don't I don't want to be called very wrong on this one, but most of the time you don't have the same person doing both. Although there are, I mean, no one, it's not considered weird when you do see it happen. Um, and so when I started film school, I only wanted to write. I had no desire to direct, and so I spent a little bit of time writing, and I heard from several people that one of the ways that you can immediately start becoming a better writer is to direct your own screenplays. When you do that and you hear other human beings like speaking your dialogue, you'll be like, oh my God, like, no, this needs to be shorter, or I need to eliminate these words. And it helps you really just become a better and more streamlined filmmaker. And so I started doing that. And once I started doing that, I was like, man, I kind of like this. Like, this is pretty cool. And so I started dabbling in both. And then I personally, and admittedly selfishly, came to realize, like, no, I only really want to direct like my stuff. Like, you know, I, I'm trying to tell such you like I mean, I'm like really Asian stories, and like I want to do it in my way, and I want to be able to control like all of the creativity when it comes to the story, and so that's just kind of the how I fell into it. Um, there are also other people who will direct and will do the cinematography, and so there's like one or two other combinations where a director will also take on a secondary role. But it's all preference, and it's all just what you feel comfortable, and more importantly, what you have fun doing. And so that's just kind of my shtick right now. And who knows? It could change in the future once. And the thing here is too that I have to admit is like it's easier for me to say this right now because like I'm not getting paid to like direct or write right now. Like I am still very much in the I'm just trying to get noticed phase. So hopefully when the money and stuff starts happening, like that could very much change. But for right now and in trying to get my career started, that's um that's kind of how I'm doing it, is doing both.
Gotcha. That makes sense. So let's take a question. So Michael asked, I listened to Nigel, I cannot say that last name, interview and Stephen He on his podcast about how hard it is for Asians to get roles in Hollywood. What are your thoughts on this?
I it's difficult for Asians to get roles behind and in front of the camera for sure. I mean, so what I did for a long time before I started writing and directing, I was an assistant director. And long story short, if the director is responsible for all the creativity and storytelling, the assistant director is responsible for safety, schedule, logistics, and things of that nature. I do all the not fun stuff. To start the day, the assistant director runs a safety meeting where everybody on the film set stands right there in front of you, and I tell you everything that's going to happen, and I tell you all of the safety things to take note of, and what have you, like all of that stuff. So I did that for several years, where 99% of the time I was the only Asian person on the film set. Most of the time, the only person of color on a film set. And so it's like I need to start making mental notes of this, because like until like you have to, until that's like not weird anymore. And so it's like the roles are so difficult that to be honest, I think a lot of the attention and success that we've gotten with Walkman thus far is because of how unashamedly Asian I am making it. Like I am shoving it down your throat, you know, like I want you to know that this is made by Asians, it is starring Asians, but the movie is for everybody, and that's for real the truth. But I think that one of the ways to combat the problem of how hard it is for Asians to get jobs, period, in Hollywood, is when you have the opportunity to create jobs and to create opportunities, you should think about how people like you are represented in filmmaking. And so it's like I win this grant, this unexpectedly, I win this grant. And it's like how am I going to honor how am I going to spend this money and be able to live with myself and sleep at night? And it's like, no, I'm going to shine a big, beautiful light on Asian people. And so I know it's easier said than done, Michael, but like sometimes you got to create your own opportunity. And when you are finally in a position, because like here's the thing, y'all, I handpicked every single person on the movie set. Uh, and here's the thing too, something I love to share. Cast and crew combined, I had 14 Asian women on my crew. Unheard of. I don't know. I mean, I would love to hear if that's been, you know, if anything like that has been done here in town. But it was I something that's kind of uncomfortable to talk about. But it's like when I turned the movie into the grant people, 2 days later was the Atlanta spa killings, right? And that stuff happened like 30 minutes from my mom's house, you know. And so you see these dead Asian women just repeatedly on these TV screens, and it's like on a molecular level, how can I help this problem? I only know how to make movies. Like I do not think I'm a very talented person at many things, but I'm pretty good at filmmaking. And so it's like, how am I going to use my strengths to help this problem we have? Because I genuinely think that like societal change, like how we contribute to societal change, begins in our work, and it begins in what we are talented with and how we choose to use our talents to contribute to these societal changes. And so this is like my contribution. Walkman is highly political. It is only being hidden with the facade of it's just a Chinese restaurant. And so, yeah, Michael, you work really hard so that you understand how the system works, and then you bust your ass until you are the one signing the checks and you get to hire people. The, there are certainly other ways, but right now that is what we are doing, and hopefully we can make it easier for others to get in the game too, and not have to go through such great lengths to do so. So I hope that was a decent enough answer for you, Michael. But that was a great question. Thank you.
Yeah, I remember we had an executive producer from Fox in Minnesota on, and I remember there was a comment about, oh, like, why don't we get, like somebody who's front facing? But I think what people fail to understand is that, like, an organization, there's different people that make the calls and different things, right? And we need people at all, like, like up and down the food chain. It's not just the front facing or it's not just the actor, right? It's the people behind that that actually sometimes make the moves, and how important that is to for all of us to continue to like pursue and push each other so that we get people quote unquote on the inside, so that we can pull and then have more diversity in terms of voices and stories and things like that. So we definitely appreciate what you're trying to do, and just the privilege that you have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's a really good segue into our next question, Jeremy, about if someone wants to get into directing and screenwriting, where should they start? And I think Tommy Chaw, one of our viewers, kind of asked a similar question too about, schooling, education, those types of things.
Okay. So, film school is definitely not necessary. Getting a bachelor's degree was kind of the goal, right? And like, in all honesty, too, like that was a lot from my mom, like in complete honesty. Uh, it's never been easier to be a creative, in my opinion, especially a filmmaker, because of YouTube and Reddit and all of those types of things. You can really, really get a lot of amazing free information and education. I am constantly on film sets with very experienced camera people who are still like sometimes like on YouTube with a $300,000 camera in front of them, like learning like how to do something, right? And it's like it's not weird. Like that's that's just kind of what what happens. And so I say that to say that the it's never been cheaper as well to get your hands on really high quality film equipment and film software. Um, and there are free screenwriting softwares that you can find online, and that you can, you know, and there are really expensive ones too. But to start off, you can immediately access screenwriting software online. There's a screenwriting software called Celtx, CELTX, that's really great and free. And so I I encourage anybody who wants to get into screenwriting and or directing, you got to start off to where you're not spending like any of your own money, in my opinion. And so that means a great way that you can start off is to write like a 1 or 2 page script that intentionally has no speaking parts in it, and then use your phone to film that script. When you start that process, you're going to start coming across questions like, okay, well, I mean, do I want to have a close up on this person, or do I want to like take a step back? And you start realizing that every single thing that you do, every step that you take is directing. And so when you have no dialogue at the very beginning, you are forcing yourself to visually storytell. When you start doing that after a while and you start like feeling ready to collaborate, a big thing that I think a lot of people overlook is you are never too far from an independent film community. And that includes uh, film programs at local colleges. Every group of film students is desperately hungry and willing for anybody to come help on their movies. If you want to act, if you want to learn how to light, if you want to do whatever, if you just want to learn how a film set works, I guarantee you, if you um, meet some local film students, they're going to get you on a movie set. And so once you kind of make that connection, you start dedicating your time and your energy to helping other people make their little movies, and you get your face recognized and you start building equity in the community, because it's it is the same like any other legitimate community. You have to play the game. You have to build equity. You have to build relationships. You have to like show that you want to be a healthy and active member of this community. And so you start dedicating your time and your efforts, and people are going to start reciprocating. And then before you know it, you're directing a little movie and other people are working for you. And so, you know, like I said, with the internet and with the accessibility of high caliber gear and software for affordable prices, it's really on you, on your comfort level and where you want to start and how fast you want to go. But again, don't forget about local film colleges and local film communities. That is where you're gonna find your tribe and kind of find um, your support system to get you going.
There were so many good little nuggets there that you really went into. Um, so I think you might have kind of answered this question because I think based on what I got from you, it's just there's a lot of opportunities out there, right? And I think we just have to like maybe think a little bit outside the box or like get out of our own little communities and find whether that's like creating or film or other communities. And so how does someone who wants to write get exposure with no experience or connections?
This is a great question. So there are many film festivals around this country that they also, in addition to the film festival, they have screenwriting competitions. And for these screenwriting competitions, they always need volunteers to read scripts. When you do this, you're not really paid, but you are given like a free pass to the film festival. And when you get that pass to the film festival, you're also given access to the parties at the film festivals on like the evenings when you're not volunteering or what have you. Getting like meeting people organically through industry related events is one of your best ways of doing it. Um, to be honest, too, something that I have really found comfort in is finding other Asian American creatives. Um, because we are so limited in resources and population wise in the industry, sometimes you have to get less specific. Like sometimes it's like it's not someone who wants to write, but I encourage you to rather be like, I want to be someone who's a bit more creative. And so you're not really pigeonholing yourself into one medium, but rather you want to encourage yourself to surround yourself with other like-minded creatives so that they can help like encourage you find like what you want to do and how you want to get there. But again, like there are screenwriting competitions that you can join. I don't really take part in that, but that's like one avenue. But to be honest, Ching, like I think that to get started to find your answer to this is to meet other writers. And also too, dude, to go online. It's very easy to find screenplays for Hollywood things. Ching, you should go find your favorite movies scripts online. Read the script and then watch the movie and then see like the difference and the similarities of what like from the screen from the paper. And when you start getting an idea of how that works, that can help you become a better writer and yeah. So I hope that helps, Ching.
Yeah, I always think it's so interesting to see like because I think I've seen like maybe it was like Brad and Angelina read like Mr. and Mrs. Smith, and it's like I mean, the power of acting too, right? I think sometimes we think it's, like from RB, sometimes it seems like it's easy, but I mean, they bring so much. And I think when I remember watching the Friends documentary and how they, like were finding the cast and just, how they brought the character, right? That was like just basically writings and brought into life. So I think that's just really fascinating. All right. So how can people support your work, and how do people connect with you, Jeremy?
The best way right now to connect with me, just support me, would be to follow me on Instagram and Twitter and on socials. We are getting the year started just like everybody else, and so we've got some. We're current as the post production team is working on editing. We're working on some fun stuff to release for Lunar New Year's later in the month. And so that's kind of what I'm working on, is just doing a little bit of fun stuff to prepare for Lunar New Year's. But on Instagram, I am at Jeremy Thao, all one word. On Twitter, I am at Jeremy_Thao. And from there, you can easily find all of the Wokman social accounts. And so, the support from the Hmong community has been incredibly heartwarming. I actually had another Hmong filmmaker on my crew, Lee Moy. She was my hair and makeup artist. That was incredibly powerful to have a Hmong filmmaker on set with me. It was very special, very, very special. And so, um, you know, this movie, like I said, is for everybody, but it is very much uh, my attempt to shine a light on our people, And so I just want people to know that there are people in the filmmaking industry who believe in Asian stories and are working really hard to try to make them not only come to life, but like I said earlier, to make sure that the upsurge in Asian cinema is not just a flash in the pan, but rather that we are building a foundation and letting Hollywood know that like these stories are worthy of being told and we need help and we need money to make them. And so that's what we're trying to do.
Awesome. Let's do this last. We have one last question. This is from Baku, who is she just directed a music video for one of our Hmong singers, and so she said, "Would you ever come to Minnesota for a project?" And so, is one of the film festivals up there that you intend to go, or are you planning to go up to Minnesota at any point?
Yes, I would love to, and I almost did last year, but some logistics and stuff kind of it prevented me from doing it. But yes, I would love to. I visited Minnesota for the first time uh, in December of 2021. I visited the Hmong Museum, and I just went to Hmong Village, and I was there for 3 or 4 days and just kind of really immersed myself into Frogtown and like the Hmong community up there. Excuse me. When I was up there, I happened to cross paths with a filmmaker named Kang Vang up at the Hmong Museum, and we both just kind of learned we were filmmakers and became friends. And so, anyway, I say all that to say that I have been incredibly lucky to start building a small group of Hmong filmmaker friends, not only in Minnesota, but also in LA. And we've all been talking and we're all trying to figure out how to support each other. And so, to be honest, I think the answer is not would I ever come to Minnesota, but rather like when is it going to happen, and for what project will it be for me to come do that? Because it kind of also ties back into the uncomfortable thing that we've been talking about for weeks is like, um, of course, I would love to come to Minnesota for a project, but at the same time, I am dedicating my entire livelihood to filmmaking. And so to leave Atlanta for an elongated amount of time to come work on a movie, um, it would have to be the right conditions, obviously. And so, but yes, I yearn to collaborate with other Hmong artists and creatives, and I know that it's coming. So, but yeah, it's gonna happen at some point.
Yeah, that's awesome. I know. I remember like the first time I went to Minnesota, and it was just so surreal, because I've lived in North Carolina and Georgia and now up here. And just being there and being like, wow, like like in Georgia, it was like every person I saw, I definitely knew they were not Hmong, and then Minnesota, it's like every person I see is most likely going to be Hmong, right? And so it was just a very you know, like,
different.
yeah, experience to just be like, wow, like, you know, Hmong people own this and they own that, and like different vendors are Hmong versus just like Asian. And so it's a very, you know, nice experience being, because we're such a minority, you know, Asian population. And so
very powerful. It was a very powerful feeling to
yeah.
walk down streets and see that type of presence, and to legitimately, at least for a few moments, like not feel like a minority. You know,
Yeah.
it's, and I mean, and not even a minority within the Asian community, but like
Right.
Hmong, you know, and it was incredibly powerful, and I cannot wait to come back. I enjoyed it in December. I actually had my flight delayed 12 hours because of snow, but maybe I can come. I'll go back when it's a little bit warmer, and yeah. But I love Minnesota, and I love our community there, and I wanna be a more active part of it.
Yeah, love it. All right, Jeremy. Well, thank you so much for being with us, and we will definitely share, you know, more of your stuff on our page as you start to showcase your film. And so, really, really excited for that. Again, I watch it, and I'm really curious, like what the plot is going to be and how it's going to dive deeper into it. And so, thank you so much again for being with us, and for everyone for being with us tonight, and for the questions. Again, you could connect with Jeremy on his different social media platforms, and we will link those as well. And so please definitely look out for those. And thank you for being with us. Of course, here at All That Talk, we believe that conversations try to change, and change starts with you. We will see y'all next week. Bye.
Thank y'all. Bye.